All right, well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to PPA 500, section number one. Also, welcome to fall semester 2024. It's kind of shocking to me how quickly the summer goes by. I think that as I get older, the summers go by much, much quicker. And seems like we're just finishing spring semester. I turn around and it's beginning of fall semester. So also, welcome to all of you who are new to the Beach MPA program. I think that's just about everyone in the class is new to the program. We do have a full class this term. We have, I think, 21 folks enrolled in this section of the course. Typically, over the past few years, we've only had two courses, two sections of 500. I had usually about 13 to 15 people, but I think we have now gotten past the COVID downturn in enrollments, and we've had a very healthy enrollment numbers for this semester. And so we actually have three sections of this class, and I believe all three sections are overfilled at 20 or 21 each. So that's good news, obviously, for all of us in the MPA program. So welcome to the program. I know this is Tuesday night, which means that you may have already had a class yesterday if you're taking more than one course. So maybe your instructor already welcomed you, but here's your official welcome as a member of PPA 500. My name is Dr. Powell, and I will be your instructor for this course. I thought what we'll do tonight is we'll do an abbreviated session this evening. So I thought what we would do, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I have the syllabus up on the screen there, and we'll go through the syllabus, talk about the course requirements, some of the topics that we'll be covering, why we're covering those topics, when we will cover those topics. We'll talk about some of the expectations for the course and hopefully some of the learning outcomes that once you are done with this course after 8 weeks, some of the things that you'll be able to walk away from the course with in terms of competencies and skills. Then I would also like to talk a little bit about some of the information from the orientation session. I communicated with Dr. Butts, and he said that the majority of folks were able to attend the orientation. For those of you who were not able to attend the orientation, I'll spend a little bit of time tonight kind of hitting the highlights of what was covered in the orientation, then talking a little bit about the mission of the MPA program, some of what we consider to be the public service values that we rely upon here in this program, and then a few words about what it means to be a NASPA accredited program and some of the core competencies that you can expect to leave the program with. And so we're planning on doing that tonight, probably in about an hour and a half. And then I'll let you out a little bit early because I know this is our first night together. So it's probably good that we just kind of get our feet wet in the program and kind of ease into the program rather than having a 3 hour course or anything like that tonight. So that's our plan for this evening. The session is being recorded. I record all of our sessions, and then those recordings, links to those recordings will then be placed on our Canvas site. Typically, that happens a day or two after the class is over. So you will then have access to those recordings. You can go and watch those recordings at any time you'd like throughout the remainder of the week. You are strongly encouraged to be here in our Tuesday evening live sessions. I do understand that many of you work full-time jobs, and sometimes because we are on a Tuesday evening, if you work for a city and you do work in support of a mayor or city manager or city council, a lot of cities like to have their city council meetings on Tuesday evenings. And so I know sometimes there might be a little conflict there between attending class sessions and then attending city council meetings. If you do have some conflict like that, you can rest assured that the session is being recorded. And so if you have to miss class, you can always go back and watch the recording. Then after watching the recording, if you have any questions or need any clarifications, you can always just send me an email and I'm happy to provide any of those clarifications that are deemed necessary. So that's what I have on our agenda for our abbreviated session tonight. But let me just tell you a little bit about who I am since you're going to be living with me for the next 8 weeks. Again, my name is Dr. Powell. My contact information is there on the syllabus for you. It's easiest to contact me via email as opposed to voicemail. I'm very good at returning emails. I have all of my emails pushed to my phone. You can't see it, it's kind of all blurred, but all my emails go directly to my phone, and so I will respond to your email very quickly, certainly within 12 hours, sometimes within 10 or 15 minutes. So reach out to me via email with any questions. I am notoriously bad with voicemail, and I will go weeks without returning voicemails, and so always email is the best way to contact me. This is year number 24 for me at Cal State Long Beach, which is really kind of hard for me to believe, but I'm beginning my 24th year here. 10 of those years I spent as chair of the department. 19 of those years I spent as program director and still program director of the distance learning MPA program. So I've been kicking around Long Beach for quite a while now. I taught for 5 years at other institutions before coming here to Long Beach. I taught at Florida Gulf Coast University down in sunny Fort Myers, Florida. And then before that, my first academic appointment was at Eastern Illinois University in lovely scenic Charleston, Illinois, which is right smack dab in the middle of central Illinois. Kind of, my house was surrounded by cornfields on 3 of 4 sides. So that was my first 4 years as a full-time faculty member. So really, this is my 29th year as a full-time faculty member. Again, I also am the director of the distance learning MPA program, been the director of that program since 2005. Live in Santa Clarita. Let's see, what else can I tell you? I also served as a local elected official for 6 years, from 2014 until I retired from public office in 2020. Served as the president of a school board, served as the president of a joint finance authority as well. So really had some opportunity to take a lot of the things we talk about in a course like this and then apply them in the quote unquote real world of governance and public administration. Had the opportunity to manage a $150 million general fund budget and $148 million in capital projects. So a lot of experience in public budgeting and finance, a lot of experience in human resource management. And so I try and bring some of that into our discussions here on our Tuesday evenings. So that's kind of it for me. We're not going to go through individual introductions here tonight just for the sake of time, but if you have looked at the syllabus and you've looked at our Canvas site, then you're aware that you have an introductory posting in discussion forum that is due next week. It is ungraded. It's just to allow you to share some information that you are comfortable sharing about yourself with me as well as with your classmates, just so we can kind of get to know each other a little bit better, since we will be working together as a class over the next 8 weeks. My office hours are on Tuesdays from 2 to 4, so just before this class. And again, if you need to contact me, send me an email, and that's the best way to get in touch with me. Our meeting dates, we are a hybrid course. We are what's considered to be a hybrid first half of the semester course, which means that we meet live in Zoom sessions on Tuesday nights beginning at 4 o'clock on tonight, and then September 3rd, September 10th, September 17th, the 24th, October 1st, and then October 8th. Our last meeting, we will reserve that for you to complete your final assessment. So we won't have a live synchronous Zoom session on October 15th. You'll just use that time to finish up the final assessment for the course. The Graduate Center for many years now has really tried very hard to provide courses in a variety of different modalities and formats to kind of help students with their schedules and to try and make it a little bit more flexible. Because we know this is only one thing that you are doing. We know that many of you are also working full-time jobs, you have family obligations, and so school is just one more of those types of obligations. And so what we've tried to do is offer different types of modalities. And so about, gosh, it was probably, I'd say 17 or 18 years ago, I, along with a former faculty member who is retired by now, we put together this hybrid approach to courses whereby some of our courses are offered in the first half of the semester for 8 weeks, and some courses are offered in the second half of the semester for the second 8 weeks of the semester. And the reason why we did that is so that students have the opportunity to kind of stack their courses. So you can take a course like this, 500, in the first 8 weeks of the semester, then be done with this course by the middle of October, and then take a second half hybrid course if you're interested in that, and basically complete two courses in the amount of time it normally would take you to do one course. And those hybrid courses, like I said, have been around for about 17 or 18 years now. The offerings have really grown. We started out, I offered one section, Dr. Ostrowski offered one section, and now we have multiple sections of our core and elective courses that are offered as half semester hybrids. In addition to a hybrid course like this, we also have some courses that are offered for the entire full semester. We have some courses that are offered completely on campus, face to face. We have some class sections that are offered asynchronously, where you will not have the live Zoom sessions, but everything is done kind of at your own pace in an asynchronous manner. And then you have courses like this, which are synchronous meetings one night per week. So a lot of different modalities that are offered for your convenience as students to help you fit these courses better within your schedule and to also afford you the opportunity to finish your degrees a little bit quicker. Because I know the quicker you finish your degree, the less costly it is for you, and the quicker you can get your promotions and move on with your professional lives. So this is an 8-week first half hybrid course. We're all done when you turn in your final assessment on October 15th. You are then done with this course and can then move onward and upward. I should mention that as we go through our session tonight, as I cover this information about the course and the syllabus, if you have any questions at all, you should feel free to ask those questions. I have my text chat box open, and so you can type your questions into text chat. If you want to open your microphone and ask the questions verbally, you can do that as well. But do feel free to ask any questions as we go through the information on the syllabus. I do think it's really important for us on our first night together to be able to go through the syllabus and make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of what the assignments are, what the expectations are. Answering any of those questions now in the first week of class is usually the best course of action, as opposed to waiting to the last 2 or 3 weeks of the course when sometimes it's too late to answer those questions. So any questions, feel free to ask them. If you don't want to ask them here in our session, you can always send me an email privately, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Now, I assume that a lot of you have probably gone onto our campus site. It's been open for quite a while now, and you probably had a chance to take a look at the syllabus. I have made a couple of small little changes to the syllabus just in terms of article numbers and small things like that, but nothing major. So the syllabus, as it was posted to the Canvas site a month ago, it's still basically the same syllabus that we're using now for the course. So I'm not going to go through all the different parts of the syllabus. I just kind of want to highlight some of what I think are the most important things for you to know tonight as we begin our work together. This is the introductory course into the MPA program. So there are some exceptions to this, but for the most part, everyone, when they enter the program, the first semester, they will take this PPA 500 course. And it is important that this course is usually taken first in the program because it really does set you up for success in the future courses that you'll be taking. Now, this course is not a research intensive course. So you're not doing research assignments in this course. This course is very much designed as an introduction to public administration, and probably even more importantly, an introduction to the MPA program itself. So not a whole lot of research like you may have in some of your future courses. In this course, we will introduce you to the study of the field of public administration. We'll introduce you to the major theories, ideas, principles of public policy administration, including things like federalism and intergovernmental relations, organization theory, personnel, human resource management, public finance and budgeting, public policy formulation, implementation, and evaluation. And then we'll also spend a pretty significant amount of time, an entire week, talking about the basics of American government and political institutions, and where public administration fits within our system of American government. Now, if you knew anyone who went through the MPA program maybe 5 or 6 years ago, this 500 class is pretty different from the course that they took when they went through the program. We sat down and did a complete redesign of this course a few years ago to incorporate more coverage of the idea of public administration in American government. And so that's why we spend an entire week next week talking about the principles of American government. Some of the things that you should be able to do upon exit from this class, you should be able to comply with the requirements of the MPA program and its policies. You should be able to articulate the basic concepts of American government and political institutions. You should be able to apply the major theories and themes of public policy and administration. And you should also be able to articulate the basic elements of the major subfields in the field of public administration. Now, I know our department is called the Graduate Center for Public Policy and Administration. The degree program that we offer is the Masters of Public Administration. So we are not a policy program, we are a public administration program. However, it's impossible to talk about the functions of public administration without also talking about public policy. Because what most of us do as public administrators on a daily basis is we are implementing those public policies and those public programs. Now, as I mentioned before, in terms of the nature of the course, this is a first half hybrid course. So we'll meet every Tuesday at 4 o'clock in these live synchronous Zoom sessions. Then, since this is an accelerated course, you will then also have discussion board assignments where you'll be participating in an asynchronous manner in discussion boards. Those discussion boards, I post a prompt for you. You will then go in at some time during that week, and you can do it at your leisure, but you go in sometime during that week, and you will then respond to my prompt and then also respond to two of your classmates. So that's the asynchronous component that then complements the synchronous real-time component that we have here in our Tuesday evening Zoom sessions. We are an 8-week course, and so that means that we are somewhat accelerated. We cover the same information in this 8-week course as we would have covered if we were a full 16-week semester. We just do it a little bit quicker at a quicker pace than if it was a full semester course. So for instance, next week, we're going to spend next week talking about the role of public administration in our system of American government. We will spend 1 week on that information. In a full semester course, we probably would spend 2 weeks on it, but we'll do an accelerated coverage of that information. So you're not getting less information in an 8-week course. You're not getting less contact hours. You're just getting that information on an accelerated basis. The course is organized to kind of provide this logical flow for you. And so tonight, the basics of what we're going to be doing this semester, then the basics of American government next week, and then we will build from there. And so each week serves as a building block for the information that is presented in future weeks. We have 2 textbooks that are required for this course. There's Don Kettle's Politics of the Administrative Process. The newest version of that is the 9th edition, but you are certainly, if you can get the 8th edition at a cheaper price, you're certainly welcome to use the 8th edition as well. The 9th edition and 8th edition are very similar in terms of their content. And one of the big, I'm not going to call it a scam, but one of the big tricks of the academic publishing world is that every couple of years, publishers will reach out to authors and say, hey, it's time to come out with a new edition of your textbook. And then those authors will tweak a couple of things, maybe add a chapter, but not make any whole-scale changes to the content of the textbook. But that new version of the textbook, that new edition, will probably then be maybe $100 more than the previous edition. So if you can get the 8th edition and you can get it at a bargain price, you can certainly use the 8th edition of the Kettle textbook. Now, what I've done here on the syllabus is one of the changes that I made is recognizing that some folks will be using the 8th instead of the 9th edition. I've included here for you links that will show you the table of contents for both the 8th as well as the 9th edition. The readings I have listed here on the syllabus correlate with the 9th edition. So if you get the 8th edition, just make sure that you take a look at the table of contents and make sure that you can kind of cross-reference which chapter to be reading in which week of the course. But I want to give you that opportunity if you want to use an older version of the textbook, if you need to save yourself a little bit of money. I put 3 kids through college. I have one who's in a doctoral program now, and I know just how painful it is to pay for book prices. And so I want to try and cut you every break I can in terms of saving a little bit of money. The Kettle textbook is a very good, very readable textbook. And one of the reasons why I really like the Kettle textbook is he places our discussion of public administration within the context of politics. One of the main things that differentiates the study of public administration from business administration is the environment in which we operate. In public administration, we are obviously operating in a very political environment, and that political environment will have an impact upon just about everything that we do in public administration. And I think Kettle does a really nice job of recognizing the influence of politics on administration. Then the other book that we are using is the Classics of Public Administration text. Classics of Public Administration, we are using the 8th edition. And what I've done in the syllabus, you'll see whenever I list the classic readings, the readings out of the classics textbook, I give you the author's name as well as the title of the article. So again, if you get an older version of the Classics of Public Administration textbook, maybe a 7th or a 6th edition to save some money, please just make sure that it has the same articles that we are going to be reading in this course. But sometimes, there's a lot of overlap between the 8th edition and what's in the 7th edition. So you might be able to save yourself a little bit of money in that regard. The Classics of Public Administration text is a compilation of what we consider to be some of the classic readings in the discipline of public administration. Now, some of those readings are relatively old. So, for instance, the Woodrow Wilson Study of Administration, published in 1887. Frank Goodnow's article was published, I believe, in like 1925. So some of those truly are older readings because they are classics. But the reason why I assigned the classics textbook is I want to afford you the opportunity to read some of these classical articles yourself and then form your own opinions about those articles. Rather than just listening to me talk about them, I want you to read them yourself and then form your own opinions. So those are the 2 primary textbooks that we will be using in this course. And then as we go through the syllabus, I'll show you, I've pointed out to you the numbers of the chapters from Kettle for each week, as well as the articles from the Shaffert's text for each week in our syllabus. So what will you be doing this semester and how will it be evaluated? I know we are only an 8-week course, and I also understand that this is your first foray into the world of an MPA program. So what I try to do is I try to keep the readings and the assignments as light as possible while still covering the information that we need to cover to set you up for success in the future of the MPA program. So I've really limited the number of assignments, and you can see under evaluation criteria here, we have what's called an initial skills self-assessment, a draft advanced to candidacy form, a midterm assessment, a final assessment, and then you will have 5 of these graded Canvas essays. Those are those asynchronous discussion board posts that you'll be doing throughout our 8 weeks together. So let me talk about each one of those assignments, what you will be doing, and the expectations for each one. Now, this first assignment, the initial skills self-assessment. This is truly an assessment mechanism. So we are a NASPA accredited program. And as a NASPA accredited program, every 7 years, we have a site visit from NASPA, which is our accrediting body. And one of the things that they really look very closely at is how well we are assessing student learning outcomes. So I wrote an article several years ago that was called, "How Do We Know What They Know?" And that's essentially what NASPA wants to know. How do we as a program know what you as a student will be learning in your time in the MPA program? So what we have done, what I did back when I was chair years ago, is I put together a student learning outcomes assessment system. And part of that assessment system consists of the completion of this thing called an initial skills self-assessment here in PPA 500. And let me just show you very quickly what it looks like if you haven't looked at it yet. I have it appended to the end of our syllabus. So let me just scroll down. So I hope I don't make you dizzy here, but scoot down to the bottom. And this is the initial skill self-assessment. We've been using it as an assessment mechanism in the program since fall of 2007. And the purpose of this is to afford you the opportunity as you enter the MPA program to think about your current level of skills and your current level of experience and comfort with some of the major functions in the field of public administration. So this initial skills self-assessment consists of 3 different parts. As you'll see here in part 1 of the initial skills self-assessment, we are simply asking you on this Likert ordinal scale to indicate how much you think you already know about each one of these areas in the field of public administration. So things such as budgeting and financial management, decision-making, ethics, oral communication skills, organization behavior, human resource management, policy analysis, problem solving, research and statistics, teamwork, and written communications. So for each one of these, you'll just mark one of those 5 categories from 1, meaning you feel you have no experience and don't know anything about the area, to 5, where you feel you have a great deal of knowledge and a great deal of experience in that area. So just rank it on a scale of 1 to 5 for each one of those. Again, that shouldn't take you very long, should be a very simple, easy thing to do. There are no right or wrong answers on this initial skills self-assessment. This is you providing an honest assessment of where you think you are in terms of skills. Then in part 2, we ask you to elaborate a little bit more in terms of your experience with these 5 areas of budgeting and finance, HR management, org theory, policy analysis, and research methods. Those 5 areas correlate directly to the 5 primary core content areas here in the Beach MPA program. So we're just asking here for maybe a sentence or 2. If you have experience in budgeting and finance, just a sentence or 2 on that experience. Now, I understand people come into this course and in this program from a variety of different backgrounds. I'll give you an example. Oftentimes people will come into the program with no experience in the public sector whatsoever. So they've never dealt with a public budget. The only budgeting they've done is in terms of their own personal finances. If that's a situation you're in, that's absolutely fine. And you're going to do well in the program. Don't worry about that. But just say that, I don't have any experience in public budgeting and finance, and that's fine. I've had some people, I had one person several years ago who came into the distance learning MPA program, and he managed the capital budget for Metro. So he was managing a $500 million capital budget and been doing that for 15 years. Clearly, he had a lot of experience in budgeting and finance. So just a sentence or 2 in terms of your experience in each one of these 5 areas. And then in part 3, we want to know your reasons for pursuing the MPA degree, and then what specific skills you hope to acquire throughout your time in the MPA program. And again, this can also be very brief, maybe a paragraph or so will certainly be enough to suffice. So those are the 3 parts of what we call the initial skills self-assessment. That initial skills self-assessment is again graded on a credit and no credit basis. So you turn it in, you get 5 out of 5. If you don't turn it in, you get 0 out of 5, but there are no right or wrong answers. And there's nothing that I will correct on it. It's just your opportunity to assess your skills upon your entry into the MPA program. So we call that the initial skills self-assessment. I have a copy of that appended in our Canvas site. I'll show you that in a second. So to complete that, you can just click on that link and then you can submit it straight through our Canvas site. Every assignment that you turn in this class, you will be turning in electronically through Canvas. And so I have drop boxes for each of the assignments. Again, I'll show you that in a second. Any preliminary questions on the initial skills self-assessment?
Is there a certain format you want us to turn it in with, like any PDF or anything like that, or does it not matter?
It really doesn't matter. I think what I provide for you, I think it's in Word on the Canvas site. And so you can certainly do it in Word, or if you want to save it to PDF, Word or PDF, either one will work fine.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. That's a good question. Okay. Now, this initial skills self-assessment you are doing here in your first course in the program, PPA 500. Then when you get to PPA 697, which I'm sure you heard about in the orientation called Directed Research, that is your final core course in the MPA program. In PPA 697, once you complete the 5 case studies that are required in 697, then the last thing you'll do in 697 is to complete a final skills self-assessment. The final skills self-assessment is the exact same document as the initial skills self-assessment, with the exception of part 3. So in part 3 of the initial skills self-assessment, we ask what you anticipate learning in the program. Then in part 3 of the final skills self-assessment, you will then tell us what you learned in the program, what was most helpful to you that you learned throughout your time in the program. And that then gets completed in PPA 697 at the end of your time in the MPA program. So we have this kind of bookend assessment, initial skills in the PPA 500 course here, and then final skills assessment in the Directed Research PPA 697 course as you are then departing the program. Then the second assignment, if you want to call it assignment, is a draft advancement to candidacy form. Now, if you were able to attend the orientation, I'm sure that Dr. Butts and Dr. Zhao talked to you about advancing to candidacy. One of the requirements of a graduate student is you need to advance to candidacy. You cannot do it in your first semester in the program. You cannot do it until you've completed 2 courses in the program with a cumulative grade point average of at least 3.0. Once you have completed those 2 courses, then you are eligible to advance to candidacy. Advancement to candidacy is just a form that you will fill out and send to Dr. Zhao and Dr. Butts, where you will just list here are all the courses that I plan on taking throughout my time in the MPA program. Now, here in 500, since this is your first semester in the program, I am going to have you do a draft advancement to candidacy form. So you'll fill out the candidacy form, and then you'll submit it here in our Canvas site. I will be able to review your advancement to candidacy form, and we'll be able to give you some feedback in terms of the courses you plan on taking and your sequencing of those courses. So the purpose here is by doing a draft advancement form here in 500, that I'll be able to give you some feedback so that once you are done with your first 2 courses in the program, with your first semester probably, then by spring semester, you can then go ahead and officially advance the candidacy and officially submit your advancement form to Dr. Zhao and Dr. Butts. Now here, this first semester, you're not submitting anything officially. This is just a draft form. I'm the only one that takes a look at it, and then I'll be able to provide you a little bit of feedback on it. So let me stop this share real quick, and let me share with you the advancement form if I still have it. There we go. Bear with me 1 second until I pull it up. There it is. Okay, in just a moment, you should miraculously be able to see it. Okay. This is the draft advancement to candidacy. Well, this is the advancement to candidacy form. We're going to do a draft of it. But what you will do on this advancement to candidacy form is just fill it out based upon which courses you plan on taking and what semester you plan on taking those courses. So obviously up here is just your basic information, name, campus ID, email, address, phone number, all that. Just the name is really what's important for us right now because it's a draft form. Your admit term, which for I think everyone is fall 2024. Your advancement term, you cannot officially advance candidacy until at least spring 2025. So you can feel free to put spring 2025 in as your advancement term. There are 4 prerequisites for you to meet before you can officially advance to candidacy. One prerequisite is meeting the graduate writing assessment requirement, or the GWAR. If you graduated undergrad from a regionally accredited university, you have most likely already met the GWAR requirement. I think almost everyone has graduated from a regionally accredited university, so that should already be met. So you can just click the met column there. Minimum GPA of 3.0 and all graduate work completed at CSULB or transferred in. Again, you have to complete 6 units before you can advance to candidacy, and you have to have at least a 3.0. Obviously, you don't have a GPA right now because you just started the program, so feel free to just leave that blank. Successful completion of 6 units. You haven't done that yet, so just leave that blank. Completion of the orientation requirement. If you attended the orientation session, that was the completion of the orientation requirement. If for some reason you were not able to attend the orientation, we are going to quickly cover some of that orientation material here tonight. So at the end of class tonight, you will have then officially completed your orientation requirement. So you can just plug the date 8/27/24 in there, and that will be when you've completed your orientation. What I'm really interested in, though, is seeing your course sequencing. So in this next box, you have all the core courses that are required as part of the MPA program. So you're obviously taking your foundations course right now in fall 2024. You don't have a grade yet. Obviously, you're not going to have a grade for any of your courses, but fall 2024 for your foundations course. And then give me the semester and year in which you plan on taking all of your other core courses. One thing to be mindful of here, and I'm sure you heard this at the orientation session, is that before you can register for your 2 sections of 697 directed research, you must first have completed all of the other core courses. So you have to have 500, 555, 577, 660, 670, and 696 done before you are allowed to take 697. So as you fill out this form, make sure that all the semesters and years for all of these other core courses are before the semester and year in which you plan on taking your 2 sections of directed research. Then under your elective coursework, what 5 elective courses you currently plan on taking, and the semester and year in which you plan on taking those courses. Now, obviously, the schedules have not come out yet for a year or two in the future, so you're probably not going to know what semester and what year those courses are offered in. That's not that big of a deal. So you can just kind of make it up. So you can just make up whatever semester and year you think the course may be offered in. If when you do advance to candidacy next semester, the semester and year in which you take the course is not important. So they're not going to, if you take a course in a different semester than what you list on your advancement form, enrollment services doesn't care a bit about that. So that's not going to delay your graduation or anything like that. But just kind of think about what 5 courses you think you want to take as electives. List those 5 courses here in this section. I can provide you feedback on those elective courses. Then you have the internship section. Now, this was again something that was covered at orientation, but just to reiterate, for all students in the MPA program, there is an internship requirement if you have not completed at least 1 year of full-time administrative work experience. So if you have 1 year of full-time administrative work experience, then what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to waive that internship. So if you have more than 1 year of work experience, just click the waiver box, tell us where you are employed, and the internship will then be waived for you. If, however, you do not have 1 year of administrative experience, then you will be required to register in the future for a PPA 585 internship. So if you do not have that 1 year of experience, then you'll click PPA 585 internship. And then what I would certainly recommend that you do early in the program, so probably sometime later this semester, is to get into contact with Dr. Butts and or Dr. Zhao and talk about what type of internship you would like to do. And they can share with you some of the organizations that we have internship agreements with. I know that Dr. Butts not long ago just started a local government partnership program. I believe it's with the city of La Palma. and the city of La Palma is offering internships to MPA students who need those internships. And so Dr. Butts can kind of make that connection for you and help you find that internship that you need. But again, to reiterate, if you don't have 1 year full-time administrative experience, then you'll have to register for an internship. If you do have 1 year of administrative experience, they can just click the waiver box, and the internship, when you do advance candidacy next semester, will then be waived for you. Are there any questions about the draft advancement form or the internship requirements?
I have a question, Dr. Powell.
Sure.
So in the orientation, we were told that we could double dip if we were planning on doing any of the certificates.
Mhm.
Is there a number, or is there a maximum number of units that we could double dip?
Are you talking about doing like more than one certificate program?
No, so
Or
just the master's and then a certificate, like one certificate.
Oh, yeah. The nice thing about the certificates is if you do a certificate, you can do it all within the 39 units of the MPA degree. So yes, what you'll do is your certificate courses will then double count as electives for the MPA degree. So if you do a certificate, you can do it all within those 39 units.
I see. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, and a lot of folks do a certificate because it is, it's a nice thing to have that you don't have to do any extra coursework for beyond the 39 units. And the one that most of our students choose is the certificate in employee-employer relations. That is by far the most popular certificate program that we have. I don't know what the current numbers are. Dr. Butts would know, but back when I was chair, I'd say probably out of 200 students in the program, we had somewhere around maybe 50 or 60 who are doing the certificate in employee-employer relations. But yes, you can do that certificate within those 39 units. Okay. But again, to reiterate, this is just a draft form. It just gets submitted to the Canvas side. I review it. I then return some feedback to you in terms of your courses you're planning on taking and the sequencing of those courses, but you're not officially advancing now. You cannot do that until at least spring semester.
I have a question, Professor.
Sure, go ahead.
So, in regard to the internship, I know that, for example, I used to work for a local government and am currently transitioning over to a different in private sector. Could I use my previous experience to fill that internship aspect, or would I have to redo an internship?
No, you're fine. You can use that experience you've had to waive the internship, and you'll be fine. Did it answer the question?
Oh, I mean,
Okay.
thank you so much. Yes, that did.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, there's a question in text chat. Recall the certificate program they said is not currently being offered. I don't know if they talked about the government finance one. I know that's one that we were talking about. We had very low enrollment in that. And then the faculty member who put it together, Dr. Moore, then retired a couple of years ago. So I know Dr. Butts was talking about maybe that one being phased out. So I don't know. You have to ask Dr. Butts about that and what he discussed in the orientation session. I saw it's the employee relations one. That's the one that most people tend to do if they are going to do a certificate. One thing I did notice, though, I took a look at our roster of everyone who is enrolled in this course, and I did notice that there are about 5 or 6 folks who are in the urban affairs option. Now, whenever you joined the MPA program, you indicated one of 3 options, either the general MPA option, the urban affairs option, or the public works option. I know we have 5 or 6 people who are in the urban affairs option. If you are in the urban affairs option, the advancement form is a little bit different for you. And on our Canvas site, I've included a link to the urban affairs advancement form. The primary difference with those of you who are in the urban affairs program is that you'll have one additional core course. So in addition to these core courses everyone takes, you'll then also have PPA 610, Seminar in Urban Affairs, which will be another required course for you. And then instead of having 5 electives, you'll only have 4 electives. So it's still a 39 unit requirement. It's just 4 electives instead of 5. And then you will have to take the 610 Seminar in Urban Affairs. But that advancement form is on our Canvas site. You can go ahead and download that. And if you're in the Urban Affairs program, fill out the advancement form for Urban Affairs. If you're in just the general MPA program, then this is the form on the screen that you'll be filling out for your draft advancement form. Okay, let's shoot back to our syllabus and continue our discussion of the syllabus.
I wanted to ask really quickly because sometimes I do struggle converting PDF to documents, and I think it is downloaded into a PDF on Canvas. Is it okay if we just write on it instead of like typing on it? Does that not matter? Do you guys want it written in a particular way?
No, that's fine. You can certainly write on it. That's absolutely fine with me. It's just because, this is, for both the initial skill self-assessment and the draft advancement candidacy forms, they're just coming in for this class. And so they're nothing that's going to, be submitted anywhere else. And so, at least right now. And so, yeah, you can just go ahead and write on it if that's easier for you. As long as I can read it, that's good enough for me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. So the draft advancement to candidacy form, it's again a 5 out of 5 assignment. And, I'm not going to take points off on that. I'm just going to, if you don't, list 5 elective courses, then I'll just give feedback to you and say, could you resubmit with 5 elective courses? But I'm not going to take any points off. So essentially you turn it in as 5 out of 5. So those are kind of the 10 easiest points that you're ever going to earn in the MPA program. Earning the points becomes a little bit more difficult then with the remainder of the assignments. Then we also have what I call a midterm assessment, which is worth 100 points, and then a final assessment, which is also worth 100 points. I call these assessments, I do not call them exams, because what they are is they are based upon scenarios. And so what I do for both the midterm as well as the final is I will write 5 different scenarios for each one of those assessments. Each of those scenarios will be relatively brief, but they will reflect a real world public administration situation. And then each one of those 5 scenarios will then have 2 questions attached to them. So a grand total of 10 questions on the midterm assessment and 10 questions on the final assessment. The goal of these assessments is that what you will do is take the information that you have learned in the class and then apply that information appropriately to the scenario that I've written for you. Now, I will tell you right now, I'll tell all of my classes that I have a favorite answer and I have a favorite question. My favorite answer to everything, and it will drive you absolutely crazy, is it depends. Because in public administration, everything is very much situation-based, very much contextual. So the most appropriate answer will depend upon the context of the situation. So on these assessments, when you are applying the information to the scenario, you will be justifying your answers. So this is the most appropriate theory to use in this scenario, and this is why it is the most appropriate theory to use. Your answers will be graded based upon your ability to justify your answers. There are no right or wrong answers on the assessments. It's all based upon how well you can justify your answer. So 5 scenarios, 2 questions for each scenario, a grand total of 10 questions on each of the assessments. Each question worth 10 points for a total of 100 points for the midterm assessment, 100 points for the final assessment. These assessments are not done in class. So these are not timed examinations, so you don't have to worry about that. I will make them available 2 weeks before their due date. So I believe the midterm assessment, I think, is due on September 24th, if I'm not mistaken. That sounds right. So I will then make it available on Canvas on September 10th. You'll then have 2 weeks to then work on that assessment. You can use whatever information you have at your disposal. So you can use information from either of the textbooks. You can use information from our Tuesday evening Zoom sessions, from the PowerPoint slides. Whatever information you have at your disposal, you can use that information, absent AI, obviously, but you can use that information in order to answer those questions on the assessments. It truly is just an assessment of what you have learned in the class. That's why it's not considered to be an examination. So there's a midterm assessment due on September 24th, and then a final assessment that I believe we have due on October 15th. So that final assessment I'll make available on October 1st, and then you'll have 2 weeks to work on that final assessment. The final assessment is not cumulative, so we'll just cover material from the midterm until the end of the class. The midterm will cover information from the beginning up until that midterm point. So we call those our midterm and our final assessments. Now, as you answer these questions, and I'll talk more about this once I make them available and we get closer to the due dates, but as you are working on these assessments, one thing that I'm a big believer in is parsimony. We are a public administration program, which means we try to be as parsimonious as possible. We try to be as concise as possible. We try and say what we need to say using as few words as possible. We are not a history program. I was a history undergrad. And if any of you were history undergrads, you know that writing in the world of history is a lot different than writing in the world of public administration. So when you answer these questions, a paragraph or two per question is certainly going to be enough to suffice and get you full points. So be as parsimonious as you can be. But to return to this idea of my favorite answer and my favorite question, so what is my favorite answer? And so it really depends on the situation, what is considered to be most appropriate. And then my favorite question I always ask is the so what question. So it depends is my favorite answer. So what is my favorite question? So, we're learning about different theories, and we'll go through different theories of how we study organizations and different theories of what American government, American politics means for public administration. And it's all well and good to learn these theories and learn these concepts, but we always have to ask the question, so what? Well, we're learning this, but what is its application in the real world of public administration? We are an MPA program, which means we are both a graduate as well as a professional program. As a graduate program, we have certain scholarly academic expectations in terms of quality of writing, critical thinking. Those are the academic expectations. But we are also a professional program, which means we always have to keep an eye on that nexus between theory and practice. If we are just learning theories, but we don't know how to apply those theories in the real world, those theories are going to be essentially useless for us. So what I'm looking for is that nexus between theory and practice with everything that we cover in this course. And then the final assignment you will have are these 5 Canvas essays. Now, the first Canvas essay, you have the introduction, is not graded. Again, I'm just asking you to go into discussion board between now and our next class session and to introduce yourself and just whatever you feel comfortable sharing about yourself, but only share information you're comfortable sharing. But if you're not comfortable sharing much information, just kind of your name and maybe why you're pursuing the MPA degree, but just share something about yourself so we can kind of get to know each other a little bit, because these 8 weeks are going to go by very, very quickly. You're going to blink and these 8 weeks are going to be over with. But then beginning with Canvas essay number 1, which I believe is due on September the 10th, if I'm not mistaken, Canvas essays 1 through 5 are graded Canvas essay assignments. What I will do is every week I have provided a prompt for you. You will then go in, respond to my initial prompt with an initial post. That initial response to my prompt can again be parsimonious. So we're looking at maybe 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. You don't have to write a thesis or a dissertation. So be very parsimonious and concise in responding to my prompt. That response to my prompt each week will be worth 20 points. And then your responses to 2 classmates will be worth 5 points each. So 20 points for your initial prompt post, and then 5 points for each of your posts to classmates. The, again, initial post that you make in response to my prompt, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs is certainly fine. Then for your responses to classmates, I think you can get those done with about a paragraph each. So you don't have to put a lot of time into the responses to classmates. Just in your responses to classmates, be professional, be courteous, be supportive. And, maybe if you have something from your work experience that could contribute to their post, share that in your response to a classmate. So just to clarify again, you have 5 of these graded Canvas essays, and you'll be essentially doing 3 posts for each one of those. One initial response to my prompt, and then responses to 2 of your classmates. And actually, let me show you an example. I think I've included those here. Here we go. When I say discussion board assignments, that's the same thing as Canvas essay. I just kind of use those terms interchangeably. Discussion board assignment terminology is kind of a throwback to when we used to use beach board, but it's the same assignment. So in discussion board assignment number 1, Canvas essay number 1, please respond to the following question. Your response should be well written and thoughtful. Most responses are, as I said, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs in length. In Federalist number 10, and we'll be reading Federalist number 10 for next week, Madison cautioned us against the negative effects of factions. Do you believe that America is more factionalized and divided than in the past? Provide examples to support your position. What can be done to control the effects of factions more effectively? And then please respond to 2 of your classmates. And so that's your first Canvas essay that you'll be doing then, due on September the 10th. Then give you another example for Canvas essay number 2. Select 3 of the principles in the American Society for Public Administration Code of Conduct that would be most challenging for your position and your organization. Explain why those principles are challenging, and then respond to 2 classmates. In our week 3, when we talk about ethics and accountability, I will show you the 8 principles in the ASPA Code of Conduct. You'll then, for this discussion board post, be selecting 3 of those 8, and then talking about which of those 3 you think would be most challenging for your position and or your organization. Discussion board number 3, Canvas essay number 3. Consider Graham Allison's argument, and that's one of the articles we will read from the Shafritz from the Classics textbook, regarding the similarities and differences between public and private sector management, using your organization or an organization you are familiar with. So if you're not currently working in an organization, think of an organization that you're familiar with or an organization that you're interested in, and highlight 2 ways in which that organization is similar to a private organization, then highlight 2 ways in which that organization differs from a private organization. Now, if you are currently working in a private organization, just reverse the logic and compare that private organization with the public organization. If you're in a nonprofit organization, compare it to a private organization. So it really doesn't matter which sector you are working in. You can use your organization for discussion board number 3. If you're not comfortable talking about your organization publicly in a discussion board, that is certainly understandable. Just use an organization you're familiar with or an organization that you may want to work for someday. Just to round it out.
So you do have to, sorry, you do have to write the name of the organization. You can't just talk about it like objectively.
If you're not comfortable sharing the name of your organization, you don't have to. You can just, say, refer to it as, a large organization in Southern California or something like that. You don't have to actually use the name if you're not comfortable.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of asking. That's perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah, I want to be very understanding of that, because I know sometimes there have been times where people have worked in the same organization who are in the class together, and it can get kind of uncomfortable. So you don't have to use the name. For discussion board number 4, here we are looking at the ongoing debate regarding whether or not public administration is actually an academic discipline, or if it is merely a subfield within the larger discipline of political science. Take a position on whether or not public administration is a discipline, and explain why you feel it is either a discipline or it is not a discipline. So we're going to spend some time talking about what an academic discipline is, and then we'll talk about whether or not public administration fits within that definition of an academic discipline. And so you'll just be taking a position as to whether or not it's a discipline here for number 4. Then for number 5, we're going to move into the realm of public policy, using the models of decision-making that we cover in class, and we'll cover 4 main decision-making models in class. Select one public policy that you are familiar with and discuss which decision-making model was used in the development of that public policy. Are there other decision-making models that may better characterize the policy process? So those are the 5 graded Canvas essays that you're going to be doing. Again, an initial response, 3 or 4 paragraphs, and then responses to the posts of 2 of your classmates. I have the grading scale on there. As if you're new to Long Beach, you may not realize we do not use pluses and minuses, which is somewhat complicating at the graduate level because we do have a lot of grade compression at the graduate level. Typically, grades in graduate level courses fall in the A and the B range. I always lament not having pluses and minuses because I like to be able to distinguish between someone who got a 98% in the class and someone who got a 90%. But it is what it is. And so we don't have pluses and minuses. So our basic grading scale is 90 and above is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C. Don't think we have to worry about anything down there or below that. But I also tend to have a 1% flexibility rule because I'm an incredibly nice guy. So if you turn all the assignments in on time and you give it what I like to call the old graduate level try in the course, if you come in at 89%, I'll give you the 1% bump up to the 90 and the grade of A. But in order to get that 1% flexibility, you need to turn everything in on time. I have grading rubrics here, just kind of what I've already talked about for the assessments, grading rubrics for the Canvas essays, for the initial skills self-assessment. I've already kind of talked about that, so I won't spend our time going through it. What I do want to spend a little bit of time on, though, before we get into information on the MPA program, is the course schedule. So what topics are we covering in this course, and when will we cover those topics? Here in week number 1 tonight, we're obviously going over the syllabus, course expectations, do a really quick introduction to the MPA program, just hitting some of the highlights again from the orientation session, and then introducing you to the program's mission statement, its public sector values, and the competencies that you will acquire as part of the MPA program. Then coming up due next week on September 3rd is this introduction post. Again, it is ungraded, so just share a little bit about yourself. Then next Tuesday, we'll get into our discussion of the foundations of American democracy and the role of public administration in our American political system. You have some readings such as the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, and I've selected 3 of the Federalist Papers, numbers 10, 39, and 51. Links to all those documents are provided in Module 2 of our class up on the Canvas site, so you can just click on the links and they're available for you. We will next week cover the Constitution. And the reason why I go through the Constitution in this course is because you probably will not have another chance to do it throughout the rest of the MPA program. And we as public administrators, we have what's called qualified good faith immunity, which means that we are immune from prosecution as long as we are operating in good faith to try and not violate the constitutional rights of people that we are dealing with. So it's important as public administrators that we know what those constitutional rights are so we can then endeavor not to violate those constitutional rights. So next week will all be American government. We'll go through federalism, separation of powers, and what all that then means for public administration. We'll talk about the idea of power. I'll give you kind of a nuanced definition of what we call the 3 different faces of power, and just do a lot of that basic American government work in case you were not an undergraduate political science major, so we can all kind of be on the same page, learning then in the future about the field of public administration. Week number 3, we'll get into accountability and ethics. Again, the ASPA Code of Ethics, the basis of accountability, different types of accountability. You have your assigned readings from the Kettle textbook, and then you have an article, the Bennington and Moore Public Value article, which in the 8th edition of the Classics text is article number 54. Then in terms of assignments, you'll have Canvas essay number 2 that is due, and the initial skills self-assessment. Then we move into week number 4, and we're very fortunate again this semester to have our librarian, Kelly Janicek, who will be joining us for that session. Kelly comes in to talk to you about doing public administration research using library research resources. So if you have not done public administration research using the Cal State Long Beach Library, this is where you'll get an introduction to that. She also then provides you with an introduction to APA format, and she'll take about an hour and a half of the class session doing that information for us. And then the second half of the class that evening, we'll then talk about the scope of government. We'll talk about public versus private organizations, the size and scope of the bureaucracy. Then you have your assigned reading out of Kettle, as well as this article, Graham Allison's article, number 36 out of the Classics text, a very important article that we'll spend a good bit of time talking about. Then Canvas essay number 3 due, and your draft advancement form due. Then we move into week number 5, and we look at administrative structure and theory. We will talk about what is public administration, the discipline and study of public administration, and then some of the theories that have been developed to understand public administration and public organizations. And I'll walk you through the 150-year development of organization theory and the different views and the different opinions that we have developed in terms of how to study public organizations. At its very heart, public administration is the study of public organizations. So it's really elemental to understanding public administration to understand the evolution of organization theory. You see the chapters out of Kettle there, and then you also have your articles out of the Classics text. And then you also have an article that is linked in our Canvas site as well by Jackson, Grappling with the Long-Term Consequences of Slavery, a critical examination of Woodrow Wilson's effort to legitimate racial segregation. We, by definition, talk about Woodrow Wilson in this class because he, in his 1887 article, The Study of Administration, really created the first basis for a field of public administration and a discipline of public administration. And we recognize through this article and reading this article some of the limitations of talking about Woodrow Wilson and some of the more unsavory aspects of Wilson's view of the bureaucracy. If time permits, we'll talk about public policy in the executive branch, the policy process. We'll talk about decision-making models. We'll talk about what makes for an effective organization, and I'll give you some models of effectiveness that we can use to determine effectiveness in the public sector. Then you see your associated readings there, Canvas essay number 4, and then your midterm assessment that is due, I believe, on September 24th. Then week number 6, we'll get into civil service and how we've reformed the bureaucracy to introduce career civil service. We'll talk about the different eras of public employment. We'll talk about the influence of public sector employee unions. Then we'll talk about how we manage personnel resources, the different functions of personnel, human resource management. You see the article there by Perry, number 46, the Classics text. Then in week number 7, we'll get into the management of fiscal resources. We'll talk about public budgets and how we manage fiscal resources as public administrators, and then a little bit on how we measure performance in the public sector. And then that will wrap up all the information that we typically cover here in PPA 500. And then our final week will reserve for you to complete your final assessment. So we're not planning on having a live Zoom session on October 15th. We'll just afford you the opportunity during that time to work on your final. For your one-stop shopping convenience, I've included here the due dates for the important assignments. So the initial skills self-assessment due on September 10th, draft advancement to candidacy form due on September 17th, midterm assessment due on September 24th, and the final assessment due then on October 15th. Those are our 7 Zoom sessions that we'll be having. The link that you use for tonight's Zoom session is the same link that you will use for all 7 of our Tuesday evening Zoom sessions. And then here are the due dates for your Canvas essays. Again, your ungraded introductory essay or introduction post is due by September 3rd, and then each of the due dates for Canvas essays 1 through 5. I've already introduced you to the different discussion board posts that we will be looking at. Policy on late assignments. Late assignments typically are not accepted. However, if there are extenuating circumstances, reach out to me in advance. And if you reach out to me in advance and an assignment comes in late, I can still accept it, but there is a 10% penalty per 24-hour period that assignment is late. Everything is delivered electronically through our Canvas site. Um, Policy on withdrawals is kind of important. That for some reason you want to withdraw from the class, you don't want to finish out the class, do go through the actual formal administrative process for withdrawal. I do not administer withdraw people from the course. And so if you just stop showing up and stop doing work, we get to October 15th, I have to put in my final grades. I will put in a grade of WU for you. That stands for an unauthorized withdrawal, which counts the same as a grade of F. So if you need to withdraw, go through the process to get your name removed from the roster, and then we can avoid a WU. I typically do not grant incomplete. However, if there are major extraordinary circumstances that preclude you from finishing all the assignments to the course, again, reach out to me. We can talk about it. Incompletes are dangerous though, because sometimes people get it incomplete. That then means that incomplete will stay on your record for a year until all the coursework is completed. If, however, that coursework is not completed, then that incomplete turns into an F. So sometimes people forget about it. They end up getting an F or a WU, and then those are very hard to remove from a transcript. Typically, to get an incomplete, you have to have already completed 2/3 of the coursework in order to qualify for an incomplete. They can read through everything else on your own in terms of if you have accommodations through BMAC. BMAC will reach out to me and we'll make those reasonable accommodations. I never reject any reasonable accommodations, and so that's never an issue. Attendance, I leave attendance in these sessions up to you. You are professionals, most of you are working professionals. I do recommend that you are here for our live sessions, but for some reason you can't be here, you will have the recording that you can then watch later on in the week. I'll let you read through the rest of this on your own. One thing I will point out to you here at the end of the syllabus is in terms of the policy on the use of artificial intelligence. And I know the university has kind of left it flexible for instructors to determine what their policies are on AI. I happen to believe that AI is going to be certainly a reality in public administration moving forward. I think public administration is going to become more and more reliant upon AI, even with all of its limitations. I do not completely eliminate the use of AI in this class, but what you can use AI for is primarily for brainstorming. So if you want to brainstorm issues, you can do that. Use AI for that. It can be very useful for it. What you cannot use generative AI tools for is you cannot use them to impersonate you in classroom context, such as discussion board prompts, writing drafts of written assignments, writing entire sentences, paragraphs, or papers to complete class assignments. AI cannot be used for that. And a lot of the plagiarism detection tools have gotten pretty darn good at identifying AI and will give me a similarity score. And so if it comes up with the AI similarity score above about 30 or 40%, then we'll have a chat. So make sure you're not using AI to actually do your assignments. But now in this new world, we have to mention AI at the end of every syllabus. So that's the syllabus. That is the course. Do you have any questions about the syllabus or course requirements?
Is there a specific format for the Canvas essays?
No, not really. I would just say, again, 3 to 4 paragraphs is fine. There's not really a specific type of format. Just make sure that you proofread. You make sure that they're well written, that they're kind of of a graduate level of writing quality, and then that should be fine.
Thank you.
Let me switch out our share very quickly, and I'm just going to run through some of this orientation information. I'm going to do this really fast because I know the vast majority of you were at the orientation, so you've already covered this information. So let me just kind of go through it. For those of you who weren't able to attend the orientation, we'll just kind of do a recap. Some important things about the MPA program. You know that we are NASPA accredited, and we have been NASPA accredited now since I believe 1980, I want to say 1985 or 1986. We are one of the oldest accredited programs around. We've been a part of NASPA now for 40 some years, and so we really do value our NASPA accreditation. We had our last accreditation visit in 2023, so we are now reaccredited through the year 2030. Dr. Butts may have introduced you to the full-time faculty members in the program. Dr. Butts is our department chair. Dr. Zhao is our new graduate advisor. I am the director of the distance learning MPA program. We then have Dr. Frank Baber, who is currently FERPing. That's called the Faculty Early Retirement Program, which means that he is teaching part-time each fall and spring semester. We have Dr. Martin, and Dr. Martin does primarily our HR and urban affairs courses. And then Dr. Melissa Matthews, and she does a lot of our nonprofit courses, grant writing, policy analysis. So currently, those are our 6 full-time faculty members. We had a couple of retirements over the past 5 years, and so that's why we are currently at a nucleus of 6. You're familiar with the core requirements in the MPA program: 500, 555, 577, 660, 670, and 696. 697 is your directed research course. It is a series of 2 sections. Some people take both, most people now take both of those sections together in the same semester. In directed research, what you'll be doing is completing 5 capstone case studies. 1 case study for each of the core areas of budgeting, HR, org theory, policy, and research methods. Once you've completed those 5 case studies, then you'll do your final skills self-assessment as the last thing that you do in 697. And once all of that is done, then you'll be able to put together your student learning portfolio. And we'll talk a little bit more about the student learning portfolio in just a second. So those are your core courses. Then in terms of your elective courses, you'll take 5 electives. Those electives can either be chosen from within the MPA program, or they can come from graduate level courses outside of the MPA program. Couple of caveats there, though. If you're going to take an elective course outside of the MPA program, make sure it is a 500 level or above course. That's a graduate course. And also, you'll want to talk with Dr. Zhao and or Dr. Butts before you try and register for those courses, because some programs across campus are impacted, which means that their courses are only available for students within their departments. So you want to make sure that as someone from the MPA program, you would be allowed to register for those courses. Those electives get listed on your advancement to candidacy form, as we've already taken a look at. If you have transfer credit, so if you've attended an MPA program someplace else and successfully completed courses, you can transfer in up to 70%, up to 30%, which is essentially 9 credit units that you can then bring into the MPA program from another regionally accredited MPA program. We've already mentioned that after you've completed 2 courses, 6 units with a 3.0 cumulative GPA, you can then advance to candidacy. When you advance to candidacy, the requirement is you cannot advance in your first semester, and you also cannot advance in your last semester. You must advance to candidacy at least 1 semester prior to the semester in which you plan to graduate. You also must be enrolled in the semester in which you advance to candidacy. So that's why most people advance in the fall and in the spring, because most people take classes in the fall and the spring, but not everyone takes classes in the summer. You have to be enrolled in the semester in which you officially advance to candidacy.
Professor, I have a really quick question about that.
Sure.
I was looking more into the form, and I know that 697, right? That was on there twice.
Yes.
So is there an A and a B course for that, or do you just take it twice?
Yeah, it's just twice. And so what you'll do is you'll register for 6 units, 2 3-unit sections of 697. So there's not like a follow-up that you can take them together at the same time in the same semester.
Okay.
If you want. You could take one semester and another one the second semester. It's completely up to you.
Okay, but then you can take it your last semester, typically you take it your last semester, correct?
Most people will register for 697 in their last semester. Some will do it in the semester before they're going to graduate and then
Okay.
do electives their last semester, but most people do it in their final semester.
Okay, all right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure, absolutely. So another requirement that you have in addition to advancing to candidacy is petitioning to graduate. And so whenever you get closer, and this is, you're not there yet, obviously, but when you get closer to when you want to graduate, you'll need to petition to graduate. That's done directly on the Enrollment Services site, done electronically. They have a link right there on Enrollment Services. And in petition to graduate, what you'll do is you apply to graduate, and then Enrollment Services will do a grad check. So they'll go through and make sure that you took all the courses that you listed on your advancement to candidacy form. To petition to graduate, you'll want to do that if you're going to be graduating in the spring or the summer, you do it by October 15th. If you're going to be graduating in the fall or the winter, you do it by March 1st. But again, you don't have to worry about this yet. You're in your first semester. This is as you come closer to your graduation date. Director research we've talked about. There are two sections of director research that you are registered for. In director research, you will complete your 5 case studies. Those are capstone case studies, one for each of the core areas in the program. And it's not a classroom-based course in that you won't have any scheduled meetings for 697. When you register for it, you will just be working on an individual basis, completing those 5 case studies, and then completing their final skills self-assessment. In order to register for 697, you'll have to get a permit. And so Kathy Allen issues all those permits. And so when it's time to pick 697, you contact Kathy Allen, and then she'll just assign you to an instructor. The instructor you get for 697 does not matter, because the way in which we handle the grading of the case studies is that certain faculty grade certain case studies. And so Dr. Zhao grades the budgeting case study. Dr. Martin grades the human resources case study. I, along with Dr. Baber, grade the organization theory case study. Dr. Matthews grades the policy analysis case study. And then Dr. Butts and I split the research methods case studies. And so who your actual instructor is for 697 doesn't matter, because we already have this schedule set up of who grades which case study. We've already talked about options. So as you know, when you came in the program, you could be in the general MPA, the option in urban affairs, or the option in public works. If you're in the option in urban affairs, I do recommend, if you haven't done it already, which you probably have, go and take a look at the catalog so that you see all the different elective courses you can choose from. So again, in the option in urban affairs, you'll have one additional required course, which is 610 Seminar in Urban Affairs. And then for your 4 electives, I think there's a list of something like 23 or 24 different courses you can select from, and you'll select 4 of those courses to then serve as your electives for the option in urban affairs. That's only for the 5 of you who are in the urban affairs option. Certificates, traditionally, we've had these 3 certificates over the past several years. I understand, I know Dr. Butts is starting to phase at least one of these out. Employee-employee relations, public sector financial management, and public management analysis. Again, the vast majority of students, when they do a certificate, they're in the employee-employer relations certificate. That one has very robust enrollments. And so if you're interested in that one I'm sure is going to be around for a while. If you're interested in one of the other 2, public sector financial management and public management analysis, you should probably talk with Dr. Butts and or Dr. Zhao just to see what the course offerings are like in that. I know sometimes it's difficult for us to have enough course offerings to support those 2 certificates just because the enrollments tend to be relatively low. So talk to Dr. Butts or Dr. Zhao if you're interested in those certificates. We used to have a certificate in transportation. That one has been gone for probably about, 10 years now. It kind of got absorbed into the College of Professional and Continuing Education, so we no longer do that transportation certificate. So once you have completed your 5 case studies in 697 and your final skills self-assessment, you are then ready to put together and submit your student learning portfolio. Now, I know that was discussed in your orientation, but let's talk about it again here very briefly. The student learning portfolio is really very much an assessment tool. It's an assessment tool that allows you to submit assignments you've already submitted throughout the program, put them together into this portfolio. And the nice thing about having these assignments, these core assignments in your portfolio, is that when you do go for a promotion, or you go out there for a new job with a new organization, you actually have documentation of the type of things and the type of work that you did while you're in the MPA program. It's one thing in an interview to say, I know how to do a budget analysis. It's another thing to say, here's the budget analysis that I did in my budgeting course in my MPA program. So it really can be a good assistance for employment and promotion. Now, over the years, what we've done with the portfolio is we have worked very hard to streamline it and make it much easier for students to compile. So right now, the student learning portfolio consists of 3 different parts. Part 1 of the portfolio is the initial skills self-assessment that you're doing here in PPA 500, and the final skills self-assessment that you'll do in 697. So all you do for part 1 of your portfolio is you just put in your initial skills self-assessment and your final skills self-assessment, and that's it. And then you're done with part 1. Part 2 consists of what we call our pre and post instructional assignments for the core required courses in the program. So each of your core courses, public budgeting, HR, org theory, policy analysis, and research methods, all 5 of those core courses should designate what they consider to be a pre and a post instructional assignment that you will be doing within each of those courses. The pre-instructional assignment is usually due within the first 2 or 3 weeks of the class. The post-instructional assignment is due near the end of the class. The pre and post-instructional assignments are supposed to be similar assignments that allow your instructor to kind of see how well you've acquired skills throughout the course. So again, I'll do this quickly, but to give you an example, when I used to teach budgeting, my pre-instructional assignment for my budgeting course is that students would go out there and acquire a city budget. They would then read the city budget and answer 8 basic questions on that city budget. Then for the post-instructional assignment, they would do the same thing. But in that post-instructional assignment, they were able to use all the information that they've learned in that budgeting course. For the pre-instructional, they have no information to use. They just what they currently know about a budget. On the post-instructional, they can use all the information they learned in the class to re-answer those 8 questions. And that's the approach I use in budgeting for a pre and a post-instructional assignment. But in part 2 of the portfolio, you will be submitting the pre and post-instructional assignments from each of those 5 core courses. You do not need to revise those assignments. You submit them just as you submitted them to the professor when you were in those courses. So as you take your core courses moving forward in the program, I would recommend that you take a look at the syllabus for each one of those core courses and make sure the instructor has identified what they consider to be the pre and the post-instructional assignment. If it's not clear in the syllabus what's a pre and post-instructional assignment, reach out to that instructor and have them clarify what they're using as pre and post, because all instructors throughout the entire program are required to use pre and post instructional assignments in all of their core courses. So part 2, just these pre and post instructional assignments from those 5 core courses. Then finally, part 3 of the portfolio will just be those 5 case studies that you completed when you completed PPA 697 directed research. Again, you don't revise them, you just put them in as you submitted them when you completed the requirements of PPA 697. And that's it. That's a student learning portfolio. Those 3 parts, and that's all there is to it. There are no approval sheets. You don't have to get signatures from any of your instructors. You just put those assignments in to the relevant section as they were originally submitted. And then that portfolio gets submitted electronically using the OneDrive feature in your single sign-on page. So every student, when you go into your single sign-on page, you should have a chiclet that says OneDrive. That is your dedicated OneDrive account that everyone at the university has. You go into your OneDrive account, you can create a folder for part 1, a folder for part 2, a folder for part 3, and then you share those folders electronically with your 697 instructor. Your 697 instructor, once you share those folders with them, they will just look at what you've submitted to make sure that all the assignments are there. They don't go through and regrade anything. They don't look at anything for substance. They just make sure that those assignments are there, and they will then sign off on your portfolio requirement. As you're getting ready to graduate, once you've turned your portfolio in, you know your portfolio has been approved because if you look at your unofficial transcript, at the bottom of your transcript, you'll see a notation that says graduate project completed. And whenever you see that graduate project completed, that means that your portfolio has been approved and enrollment services has then removed that requirement from your requirements for graduation. The due dates for the portfolios are December 1st if you're graduating in a fall semester, and then May 1st if you're graduating in a spring semester. But again, you don't have to worry about the portfolio right now, but you will start building it in this class with the creation of that initial skills self-assessment, because that will be the first document that eventually will be included in your student learning portfolio. Just some important policies to be mindful of as we kind of wrap this overview of the program up. You have to advance a candidacy at least one semester before the semester in which you are graduating. It's good advice to advance a candidacy early in your academic career so you don't forget about it. And then if you do it early in the career, you'll know that it's done. If you do have to change courses later on, so you say, I'm going to take intergovernmental relations on my form. Later on, I find out intergovernmental relations is not offered in a semester that's convenient for me, so I'm going to take negotiations instead. That's a really easy change. Kathy Allen can do that for you. It's just a program change form. The department handles it for you, so it's nothing to be very concerned about. Also, if the semester in which you're taking a course changes, or even the year, that doesn't matter. You don't have to make any changes if the date you're taking the course changes. There is a 7-year rule that from the time you matriculate into the program, you need to complete the MPA program within 7 years. If you do not complete it within 7 years, then you'll have to reapply and re-enter the program. Courses that are more than 10 years old cannot be used toward graduation. So if you do exceed the 7-year rule and then you come back into the program, any course that you've taken that's less than 10 years old will be automatically revalidated for you. Any course that's more than 10 years old will have to be retaken in the future. I'm sure you heard an orientation about this thing known as continuous enrollment. The university requires that from the time that you are matriculated into the university, you must take courses every fall and spring semester. You're not required to take courses in the summer. You're not required to take courses in the winter, but you have to take courses in every fall and every spring semester. If you fail to take courses in a fall or spring semester, then you're going to have what's called a break in enrollment. The university will require you to then reapply and get readmitted to the university and to the MPA program. If for some reason you are not able to take courses in a given fall or spring semester, reach out to Dr. Zhao and let her know. And there's a enrollment, there's a education leave process, where there's an education leave form that you can fill out with enrollment services. That will then stop the clock and allow you to take a semester off if you need to take a semester off. But make sure if you do need to take a semester off that you file an education leave. Good academic standing at the graduate level is considered to be a GPA of at least a 3.0. If you fall below a 3.0, then you'll be placed upon academic probation. 2 semesters below a 3.0, if you're not able to remedy that GPA deficiency, then that could qualify you for academic disqualification. C's in courses do count. So you can get a grade of an A, B, or C in a course. If you get a grade of a C in a course, you just have to balance it with a grade of an A in another course to keep your cumulative GPA of 3.0. Obviously, D's and F's do not count. So if you get a D in a graduate level course, you need to retake that course. There is a grade appeal process available if you believe that you've been issued a grade from an instructor in an arbitrary, capricious, or prejudicial manner. If you find yourself in that situation, which is exceedingly rare, you'll reach out to Dr. Butts as our department chair, and Dr. Butts will lead you through that process. But I served on the grade appeal committee for many, many years, and we may get one grade appeal every decade or so, so it just doesn't happen very often. So if you weren't at orientation, that's a little 10-minute overview of some of the important things that came out of orientation. But I would also like to share with you as one last thing, and then I'll let you go for an early evening. I know it's our first night together. Let me share with you the mission of the MPA program, just so we all know what we are trying to achieve here as members of the MPA program, some of the things we value as an MPA program, and then what it means to be NASPA accredited. So we revised our mission statement back in 2023 when we were going through reaccreditation, and this is the current mission statement of the MPA program. I'm not going to walk you through it. You can read it on your own. These slides are available on our Canvas site, but our mission statement is very important because everything that we do as a program needs to relate back to our mission. NASPA accreditation is mission driven. So regardless of what you are doing with admissions, what you are doing with student assessment, what you're doing in terms of curriculum, all those things must be then directly related back to the mission of the MPA program. And our mission is very much centered around educating a diverse, ethically, and equity-minded student population with the skills that they need in order to advance the public good and make a positive impact at all levels of governance and management. This mission is based upon certain public service values that we value as a program. And these are our 7 public service values that kind of underpin everything we do as a program. Enhancing diversity in faculty and student population. We are certainly fortunate to have a very diverse student population, and we have been working very hard when I was chair, and now again when Dr. Butts is chair, to diversify our faculty as well. We embrace diversity in our teaching in our classrooms. We promote the public interest, because after all, we are a public service program at its very heart. We encourage and foster ethical behavior. We encourage and foster integrity. We encourage and foster social justice. And Dr. Butts has done a lot of really great things in his time as chair, but one of the things I think he's been really, really good at is really enhancing social equity and social justice. And you'll notice you'll get some announcements from the department for colloquia and for workshops focusing on diversity, social equity, and social justice. I strongly recommend you take advantage of those opportunities as they've been curated very carefully by Dr. Butts. And then obviously professional competence. When you graduate from an MPA program, you should have acquired the competencies that are necessary to effectively lead and manage in the public and the nonprofit sectors. But speaking of competencies, since we are a NASPA accredited MPA program, we are required to demonstrate that every student that graduates from our program demonstrates these 5 universal required competencies. So when you graduate from a NASPA accredited MPA program, you will have the ability to lead and manage in the public interest. And that's the first, what's called universal required competency. The second competency you will have is the ability to participate in and contribute to the policy process. Third, you'll be able to analyze, synthesize, think critically, solve problems, and make evidence-informed decisions in a complex and dynamic environment. Fourth, you'll be able to articulate, apply, and advance a public service perspective. And then number 5, you'll have the opportunity and the ability to communicate and interact productively and in culturally responsive ways with a diverse and changing workforce and society at large. The whole reason why we have these 5 case studies in 697, the pre and post instructional assignments in our core courses, the portfolio requirement, all those assessment devices are geared around measuring these universal required competencies. And so as you leave the MPA program, these are the 5 competencies that we expect you will be able to do as graduates of the Beach MPA program. And that, in a nutshell, is my introduction to the course, introduction to the MPA program. Do you have any questions about any of this information that we have covered this evening? Then, as we prepare to move forward for next week, just a couple reminders. One reminder is you have your introductory post, so please do get that turned in. And then the other reminder is please do those readings for the American government information because that's what we will cover next week. I do see there are 2 questions in text chat. Oh, 1 question in text chat. What class is required for the prereq of microeconomics? That is PPA 518. It's microeconomics for public administrators. And I'm glad you mentioned that. In the orientation, I'm sure that they talked about for public budgeting, PPA 555, in order to register for that course, you must demonstrate that you've had a course in microeconomics. That can be accomplished through an undergraduate microeconomics course. If you don't have an undergraduate microeconomics course on your transcript, then you're able to take PPA 518 microeconomics for public administrators. That will then be your ticket into the 555 course, and it also can count as one of your 5 electives. PPA 696 is the other course that has a prerequisite. In order to get into 696, you must show you've had an undergraduate statistics course on your transcript. If you do not have that, then you can take PPA 517, Analytical Skills Development. That will then be your ticket into 696 Research Methods, and it will also be able to serve as one of your 5 elective courses as well. So 517 is for 696. 518 is to get into 525 public budgeting. So thank you for mentioning that, Monique. That's a great question.
I had clicked on the links that you posted in the slides about the certificates because I just wanted to make sure I wrote down all the required courses, but I'm kind of struggling to find it because it just takes you to this very vague catalog and it's a little difficult to find. Do you know anywhere where I can find the requirements or like the courses required to receive the certificates?
Yeah, the catalog is the best place to go. And what I could do is I can kind of extract that information from the catalog. I'll go ahead and post it on our Canvas site. So you kind of have a one-stop shopping. You don't have to pick through the catalog to get it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Because I got to like I got into like the MPA part, but then I just couldn't find like the certificates part. So that would be super helpful. Thank you so much.
Yep. Yeah, I'm happy to do it. And there's a question from Jose. How do we know if our current job qualifies to get the internship waived? Chances are, if you have 1 year of full-time experience, it will waive the internship, but definitely talk to Dr. Butts and or Dr. Zhao, and they have the final say in terms of what waives the internship. Dr. Butts is our department chair, and then Dr. Zhao is our grad advisor. Okay, well, it was very nice meeting everyone virtually. I'll let you get out early tonight because it's our first night. And again, if you can redo the readings for American government, we will cover American government next week. And then if you have any other questions that kind of percolate up between now and next week, I'll reserve some time during our session next week to answer any of those questions. I'll get this recording all, what do they call it? Export it. And then I'll get the link up onto our Canvas site within the next day or two. So you can always go back and review this information anytime you want. Okay. Nice meeting all of you. I look forward to working with you, and I will talk to you again at 4 o'clock next Tuesday. So have a great week. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you.